we left off, we were talking about the emails, that you were sending back and forth with your sister. And the last time that we had talked, you told me that, that you had gone to a 30-day rehab facility. Could you elaborate on that and what your experience was with that?
Sure. So after I did a detox program, which was mandatory to get into this 30-day inpatient program, I entered a local rehab facility for 30-day inpatient treatment. It was counseling, group therapy, individual therapy. Um, and I went through that 30 days without really having any cravings for liquor, didn't really think much about it. I graduated, I guess, if that's what you would call it, at the end of 30 days, left the rehab facility and headed home. And before I even got back into my condo, I stopped at my regular beer and wine store and picked up a 15 package of beer. And that was right out of rehab before
On
I
the
even got
on
back in
on
the
the way
door.
home from rehab, you stopped.
Yeah, and picked up
Can I
15 pack of beer.
can I ask you a question? When you were in in the rehab facility, did they help you with? Did they like give you any kind of like drugs or anything like Ativan or anything like that to help you through the withdrawals, or did you just have to face it?
In detox, which is detox is a separate facility, at least where I live. So that's where I was administered medications to help me through withdrawals. And detox here is in a set amount of time. They sort of go case to case basis based on how you're responding to the medication and whether they feel it's time to release you back into the wild, I guess. And I think I was there for 5 or 6 days when they said, I think you're good to go. Like your withdrawals are all over. Um, your body is at least clean of all the toxins. So I think between detox and going into rehab, there was a 10-day period of wait until their next intake. And I don't remember drinking during that lapse from detox to rehab. But as soon as I got out of rehab, I was right back into it
What was your
and
experience
never
with
looked
that?
back.
Like after you got out of rehab and started back drinking again, how did that go?
I hit it for as long as I could until I couldn't anymore. And a friend of mine, actually, the one who I mentioned earlier, who was a roommate where we would, drink 3 beers a night each. Um, I was still friends with him, but he lived in a different part of the city. So most of our involvement was on phone calls, just catching up. And I got out of rehab like in February. And in June, I remember being on the phone with him drunk, but thinking I was pulling it off. And he finally said, are you back drinking again? Because I've noticed in our last several phone conversations, your speech is slurred, your thoughts are disjointed, and I fessed up. And uh, and I mean, it didn't stop me from drinking. I just kept on drinking until so that was 2012, and then in 2019, I stopped completely drinking. Cold turkey. I'm not quite sure why, what motivated me. I wasn't sick. I didn't have any medical problems. I think I was just sick of drinking and knew that this is not how I wanted to live the rest of my life.
You were sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah, I was. And And leading up to that point when I quit, I mean, every day I was going to quit. And that played over and over like, this will be the last time. This will be the last time. This will be the last time.
Yeah.
And I was like a robot. I just would wake up and do my stuff, have breakfast, get showered, and I would find myself in the liquor store again, buying another case of 15. And that day that I decided to quit, I mean, most of my days started that way prior to this day, but for whatever reason, I never ended up at the beer store. And I just came home and weathered the storm and quit for 2 years, 2 months, 1 week, and 1 day. And then I was at a friend's. He offered me a beer. And up to that point, I had always declined offers of liquor wherever I was or whoever I was with. And for whatever reason, I said yes. And that was, like I said, 2 years, 2 months, 1 week, and 1 day of sobriety. And just drinking that one beer opened up another can of worms. And I didn't
What
start drinking immediately.
what was that after you had gone that 2 years without drinking? What was that initial day like when you drank in? Were you like, did it make you feel good? Were you like, man, I'm glad I'm back here again? Or were you like, I can't believe I just did this? What was the
That's where
feeling?
I was. I can't believe I just did that. Why? I mean,
Yeah,
I didn't get a buzz off it. Um, yeah, it was a really negative experience that I had let myself down and I had let my guard down. And I wasn't having crazy cravings leading up to this point where I was offered a beer and took it.
yeah.
I just did for whatever reason in that moment. I did. And I didn't start drinking immediately, um, but probably within 2 weeks of that, I think I had convinced myself, oh, well, you had one beer, Dave. So, and you haven't drank in 2 weeks. So why don't you stop and get a six pack?
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And then six became eight, became 12, became 15.
Did it
And
become
that
one of
just,
those things? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but did it become one of those things where you kind of like told yourself? Because I hear this so often of people going, okay, well, I went a period of time with no alcohol, and then I went back, and the first night I had one beer, and so now, did you just have the one beer that night, or did you drink
yeah,
multiple? Okay, so
just one beer.
so exactly what I'm getting at. A lot of people do that. I have one, and I was able to control it. So then I go to two the next night, and I did a good job, and I controlled it. Is that kind of how it went for you? Like you felt like you might have control, and then next thing you know, you just slid right
Boom.
down the slide.
Yeah, it's mental gymnastics. We
Yeah.
play with ourselves. And I was giving myself a lot of credit for only having one beer that night
Oh
and then
yeah.
having time elapse where I didn't drink at all. And in my head, I think I was convincing myself, well, maybe you do have it under control. And I didn't. And it
Yeah.
didn't take long to realize how out of control it quickly became again.
What would you so because I've talked about this in videos before about, not allowing yourself to get back into that, thinking that you have control. You've gone 5 years without alcohol, and then you think, okay, well, I can have one. What would your advice be to anybody out there who's quit and thinks, I might be able to get control of my alcohol and my drinking again? What would your advice be to them?
My advice, and I'm just going off personal experience, but I think it's probably true for a lot of people. I would say don't have one drink
Yeah.
because it will allow you to play games within your head to convince you that you're all right, you've got it under control. And I'm talking any kind of liquor drink, a shot of Bailey's, a beer, a glass of wine. I think it's will lead you right back to where you were eventually. And
Yeah,
you
or
can play
worse.
all the games or worse, and
Yeah,
you can play all the games you want in your head. I don't think beer alternatives are a good solution either. I mean, at least for me, I never thought about substituting a real beer for a non-alcoholic beer. I just
yeah.
don't think that that is a good way to deal with um, the problem that you have, because I
I-
really think it keeps your your whistle wet.
Yeah.
Um, Eventually, I think you would bore yourself with that and go further.
Well, I told you my experience with it. There was a point in my drinking where I had quit drinking and was substituting non-alcoholic beers for my beer, and it eventually got to the point to where one day I think I'd gone like 2 or 3 weeks without drinking, and one day I decided I can have one beer, and then I started pouring out the beer, the non-alcoholic, and pouring regular beer in there, and I'd walk around the house with a non-alcoholic in my beer, like, look at me, I'm not drinking. All the meantime, I'm really drinking. And I just went right back down the same path again, and it just wasn't a good scenario at all. I agree with you. I think those near beers, and not to mention a lot of them have very small amounts of alcohol in them.
That I understand now as well, that there is a small alcohol content even in near beers, which
Yeah,
I think if you're committed to quitting, and I just think you should find something else to put in your mouth when
yeah.
it
I think you
comes to
really
that.
need to readjust your taste buds because you just got to
Yeah.
get away from that. It's just so hard because I mean, if you're used to drinking beer. And there's lots of other things too, like soda water. You know, they've got those soda waters. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think those soda waters taste pretty much like those near beers do. It doesn't have a lot of flavor to it. It's just carbonated, and if you're looking for something like that, drink one of those opposed to one of those beers because you're just playing with fire, I think. But
Yeah.
that's
I've
my
switched
experience.
to
And
lemon. Sorry.
no, that's my experience and your experience. I mean, I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't, and that would be my advice for anybody out there. And it sounds like you agree with me that drinking
Yeah,
the NA beers.
I don't think any liquor is a good choice if you're trying to stay sober. Even my sister, and the sister that I bombarded with emails, when she was visiting here, I remember she kind of looked at me and she asked me if I was drinking anymore, and I said no, and then she says, like, not even Bailey's, and I'm like, I didn't say anything, but you don't get it. Um,
Yeah,
like, yeah, Bailey's is liquor. I mean, I cannot drink anything, period. So yeah, I think the best um, road to go down is commit to sobriety and accept no imitations or substitutions. Find something else. I drink lemon infused water now. That's my drink of choice.
I completely agree with you. So after that initial time that you went to rehab, you got out, you started back drinking. How long did you drink after that period of time?
Um, so from 2012 to 2019, I drank, and I hadn't mentioned, but from 2005 to 2015, I was also a chronic pot smoker too.
I forgot about that
But in
part.
2015, but in 2015, between the liquor and the pot, I was having lots of paranoid thoughts when I was combining both. I think the marijuana, it's just gotten more and more stronger.
Yeah.
And um and I just found myself in these periods of paranoia, and I would wake up the next day and think back what got me paranoid the night before, to the point of pacing back and forth in my living room and
Peeking out the blinds.
thinking, yeah, thinking the world was about to come down on me. And I would wake up the next day sober, and uh, I would realize whatever was going through my head was not that big of a deal. And so I eventually gave up pot on December 31st, 2015, and have not smoked since. But I carried on drinking. I thought quitting pot was going to be easier than quitting drinking. And I had no intention of quitting drinking when I quit smoking pot.
Okay.
So I carried on from 2015 to 2019, quit for, like I said, those 2 years. And then in 2021, that's when the beer was offered to me. And that was in March of 2021. And then I quickly got back into all my bad habits of drinking in excess. And I was retired at the time. So now my drinking started even earlier, because up to that point, I guess I would say I was a functioning alcoholic. I never drank prior to work,
Yeah.
during work. It was always after work when the day was done. So I was drinking earlier and earlier, and towards the end, so from 2021 to December of 2023, I would start drinking at 9 o'clock in the morning or 9:15, because there's a beer store here opened at 9, so I could get beer at 9 o'clock. And I remember watching the clock counting down. Okay, only 2 more hours, only 1 more hour. And then I didn't want to be the first person to show up at the liquor store, as they unlock the doors, because I don't know, pride, whatever
Yeah.
pride I had left. I
Well,
did not want to be the.
I'm sure there was more people out there than just you out there in the morning, first thing.
Oh, yeah. And I remember running into the same people around the
Every day.
same time, thinking, okay, I'm not the only one who's um, into this as much as I'm into this. And then I was also embarrassed because I would see the same people at the liquor store every day, and I'd be buying 15 beer, and I was thinking, what's going through their heads?
Yeah.
But I would still go up to the counter and give them my debit card and have a nice day. And then I'd come home and start drinking.
Sorry, that's
And
my
that could be,
blood sugar thing over here going off. That's why I'm trying to get my blood sugar up right now. I'm eating a little something. Sorry about that. I cannot make it
oh, that's
stop.
okay.
It will not stop beeping when my blood sugar is low. So,
I can't hear the beep on this end.
oh, you
So
can't hear it? Oh, yeah, it's loud, man. And even if
I've
you,
heard it on your videos.
yeah, if you silence the phone, it still won't stop. Like it's gonna let you know that your blood sugar's low. So, but
Yeah.
anyway, that's what that noise is. If you hear it, I'm trying to make it stop right now. But how many years did you go on like that for?
Which?
When you started back drinking again,
Oh, so
after
like
you
from
retired and
29.
everything?
Oh, so I retired in 2019, and that's kind of around the same time I quit for the first time. And then in 2021, I drank in excess, 15 a day, until I quit on December 11th of 2023. And again, up to that point, every day was going to be the last time I was drinking. And every day I would find myself at the liquor store and saying to myself, okay, this is it. This is the last
I
time.
did the same thing.
And then something clicked on December 11th, where I had, I don't know what it was, but instead of driving to the liquor store, I drove home that day. And that's where um, this latest bout of sobriety started. And I hope it's my last, first, I mean, I hope this is it. I mean, I'm positive, I'm optimistic. I'm scared of the health implications. So far, I've dodged that.
I
As
was just
far
about
as
to
I
ask you
know.
about that, if you've had any health implications because of your drinking at all.
No, but I remember when I quit in December, I noticed my stomach was huge. And then I was listening to you and I was Googling, what are signs of alcoholism on your body? And it was talking about ascites
Mhm.
and um, just all kinds of things. So I was really paranoid. So I ended up going to my doctor and getting blood work done and having my stomach examined. And I was given the green light saying, you're fine. It's not ascites. Your blood works fine. Your liver's fine. So I dodged that bullet, but I'm still concerned. And then watching your videos, that just reinforces my commitment to staying sober.
Yeah.
So,
When you were going to the doctor, like the first go round, have you gone back to the doctor since?
no,
I'm just wondering because, like, one thing that I noticed that I was having a problem with when I was drinking is my blood pressure was always really elevated when I was a drinker. And I'm wondering if you've noticed that when you quit, if your blood pressure has gone back to normal. Did you have blood
I
pressure
have a
problems?
I have a blood pressure monitor, like an in-home one, and I
Okay,
remember um, during that first week, I was monitoring my blood pressure. And I remember that first day, my blood pressure was through the roof. Like
really?
it was not good. And I haven't checked it lately, but after that first week, it seemed to come back down to acceptable levels or norms within my age group, whatever. So I'm not concerned about that. I do have a complete physical book for mid March. So um, I will, I guess, get a more intimate exam of everything and I'll have a full panel of blood work done. And I'm going to ask him for testosterone levels, estrogen levels included in, the lab work, because I want to know that too.
Yeah,
And beer apparently has a lot of um, estrogen in it, or screws up your liver to produce more estrogen. So you end up with gynecomastia. And I don't know if I just have beer boobs or if I have gynecomastia. I don't know. So I would like that tested as well. So that's happening in mid March.
okay. Well, I do know that when your liver isn't functioning properly, I don't know if it's your body produces more estrogen or if it can't get rid of the estrogen or whatever. But I've had that problem. My estrogen levels were way up there at one point, and
Yeah.
I
And
haven't
I've
had it.
never had like,
Go
I've
ahead.
never had boobs. I've always had pecs, but now
Yeah,
they look not like pecs.
I I understand that. I've talked about that plenty of times in my videos that I had the same thing, and not any longer. My chest is not the way it used to be, but I guess too, I'm getting older as well, and I don't work out like that anymore. But
Yeah, I don't work out as much as I used to. I was a pretty fanatical worker outer. It's weird because was, I would say, addicted to working out. Like that was my complete life. And when I wound that down almost at the same time that I picked up my addiction to liquor. I don't know if, but it was sort of around the same time looking back. Like once I sort of stopped doing the working out, I picked up liquor.
Okay.
So, and I've heard that often one addiction, if you quit, you'll pick up another.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
So what's been your
so
experience so
yes,
far since you stopped drinking back in December? Um, what's been your overall experience? Is life better for you? Um,
it is. I'm not muddled with deep dark thoughts. My sleep has improved dramatically. Leading up to December when I quit, my sleep hygiene was terrible. I would sleep maybe a couple of hours, and then I would wake up and I would be paranoid, or I would have dark thoughts, or I would think about things that may happen or could happen, and I would not be able to fall back asleep. So that's, I sleep way more normal now, longer. Um, and I always thought, drinking would help you sleep. And I think when I was younger, I don't remember poor sleep hygiene.
yeah.
I just remember being able to sleep through the night, but I don't know. As I got older, I don't know. Yeah, sustained sleep was hard to come by. And now it's a lot easier.
So since you've stopped drinking, in the beginning when you stop, you just feel like crap for a while. Um, are you
I
feeling
did.
better? Are you feeling better now?
Yeah, I'm eating better. I'm eating more often. I'm I like to cook, and in my intoxicated days, there'd be days where I might not eat at all, or I would only have breakfast. So now I'm back to like 3 meals a day. I'm getting back into cooking. Um, so yeah, so that part of my life is better. The sleep is better. No more foggy brain, or oftentimes I would feel like just I was a walking zombie. Like I
Yeah,
felt emotionless, just sort of flatlined all the time.
I know
So,
that feeling all too well. How long did it take until you started feeling better?
um, probably about 3 weeks till
Okay.
I started feeling better. Like that first week was pretty rough, and I remember being worried that should I be doing this alone? Should I have medical supervision? Like nobody knows except for you,
Exactly.
um, that I've gotten sober. Um, so I did this quietly, and I know the level I was drinking. I don't know if 15 beers is a crazy amount, but I had been doing it for years, and I had heard and read, don't do it cold turkey
Yeah,
because there's a lot of medical complications, and I live alone. Nobody would hear me scream. Nobody would hear me hit the floor. So that worried me, but not enough to reach out and ask for help or do it under medical supervision. I didn't want to go back into a detox facility, um, because I know I'm an addict, but I did not want to end up in a closed setting with different kinds of addicts who could be dangerous, or I'm not dangerous, but there's a lot of detox has a lot of different addictions going on that are
Yeah.
trying to be detox at the same time, and not all are created equal. So I was concerned about that.
What
So
did you do? Not to cut you off again, but what did you do when you would start having cravings when you stop? How did you defeat those cravings? Like what was in your arsenal kit that you used?
I would just tell myself this is the best thing for you. Um, that I also, during this time, that's when I came across you. So I would watch your videos. I would um, I would Google 1 day sober and see what would pop up, and it would list what you can expect, what's improving just after 1 day, and then
Yeah.
day two of being sober. And I did that probably for the first 3 weeks diligently, like 3 days sober, 4 days sober, 5 days sober. So that kept me motivated. Um, I stayed home a lot, other
Yeah.
than taking my dog out for a walk. I pretty much just committed to hibernating
I think
and
that's the best. I
just,
think that's the best bet is just stay home.
yeah, I did groceries, like I did what I needed to do. But that was it. And then I just stayed home, and I don't remember having crazy cravings once I sort of committed to staying sober. Um, all the free time though I had, that was a challenge, especially in those couple of weeks where I just said stay home and hibernate. I don't have cable TV, so I spent a lot of time on YouTube and looking at motivational things to keep me sober.
Yeah.
So I was doing a lot of research and a lot of reading, a lot of YouTube videos on, alcoholism, to the point where my YouTube page was populated pretty much all with alcohol related videos.
Was there anything that you would do like a breathing exercise or anything like that? I mean, or did you try meditation or anything of that nature?
No, I didn't. I just sort of toughed it out. I held my little wiener dog close on the couch and just sort of gritted it out. And I never experienced any of the medical complications, thankfully, that, I had read and knew about from just quitting cold turkey.
Did you have
So
night sweats or anything?
I did, um, at the beginning. I don't anymore. But there were times when, yeah, I'd wake up sweaty, my hair would be wet, my pillow would have sort of an imprint of my head from sweating. But that's all seemed to have sorted itself out and settled down.
Did you when that was happening too, did you feel like would you get nauseous and stuff like that or did you just have
I
like the night
never,
sweats?
yeah, I never got nauseous. I've never really been predisposed to nausea. Like I was never a puker drinking. Like I never would puke. I puked twice back in my teenage years from drinking really nasty, sort of homemade, sort of moonshine, I would say.
Yeah.
And those are the only times that I ever vomited. So yeah, nausea, never had it, never felt sick. I never would wake up with headaches, or so I never had any of that going on. I would wake up feeling dull and sort of spaced out, but I was never sick.
Got you. Got you. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the video here. We're at 35 minutes now on this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop that here.